to the Care Right podcast, your go-to resource for all things elder care. Guiding us through this journey is Annalie Kruger, the founder of Care Right Incorporated, and she has been steadfastly supporting families across the United States. Each episode brings you expert insights, innovative strategies, and practical advice, ensuring that you're well equipped to provide the best possible care for your loved ones. Expect to gain valuable knowledge, learn from real-life stories, and get inspired to take action in your own caregiving journey. So buckle up as we dive into an in-depth discussion of elder care planning and together embrace the journey of caring for aging loved ones on the Care Right podcast.
Hi, everybody. My name is Annalie Kruger. I'm the owner of Care Right Incorporated. We work with families all across the country in helping them develop customized aging plans. Usually the people who come to us are burned out, overwhelmed family caregivers who have realized that if they keep doing what they're doing, their relationships are going to continually get more and more strained with their siblings and with the care recipient. Most of the families, when they come to me, they are so burned out. They've been mom and dad's assisted living for a period of time, and they have finally realized this is not sustainable and it's not working. Many of them have burned through their PTO or their vacation days or their family medical leave. And they're really quite overwhelmed and pretty burned out and realize that they are not in a good place, but they still love their parents and they want the best for their parents, but they just have realized, I can't keep doing this. It's not sustainable. So we work with families. We've been virtual. I started my business 11 years ago this month. So in April, this month we celebrated our 11-year anniversary. I don't advertise at all. All I do is I get my referrals from word of mouth referral, and my past clients and my existing clients continue to refer business. We've got partners like Billie, who's our guest today, who also sees the value of using a collaborative approach with clients so that the client can have the best possible outcome. So Billie, I'm going to do your introduction. I've known you for a long time, and I did not even know about all of this amazing stuff in your bio. So I'm like, wow. So this is like so cool. Like you've done a lot. You've done a lot. So I'm going to introduce you, Billie. She is a trust officer and certified financial planner for Fine Mark National Bank and Trust. She's actually one of my local podcast guests. So she's down here in Southwest Florida. She has been in the industry for more than 18 years in Southwest Florida. Billie holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics and Spanish from Cornell College. She will complete her master's in financial planning, California Lutheran University in November. She is a graduate of the American Bar Association's National Graduate Trust School, as well as the Florida Bankers Association Graduate Trust School. She is a member and past president of the Estate Planning Council of Lee County, as well as past president of the Bonita Springs Assistance Office. I did not know about all of that stuff. I'm like, wow, pretty amazing.
I like to be involved.
I see that. You're a go-getter. I like that. You're a go-getter. So today we're going to talk about topics that I always look for podcast guests that can really help families understand what are some different options and give them food for thought. And so today Billie is going to talk about a couple of important pieces that all families need to be aware of. So what can families do proactively to make sure they can step in and help their parents with finances in the event of a health or medical crisis?
All right, so that is a very big and important question because, as you said in your intro, usually those are the family members that are coming to see you for help. So the way that you could help your parent or parents when they start experiencing some medical issues or just may not even care to still deal with their finances is making sure you understand where all of their financial accounts are, who their advisors are. And the easiest way to understand that is if you are actually a joint owner on the account with your parents, because that gives you full access to the information, whether it's online, whether it's statements, or being able to call and ask the banker questions. However, many parents are not very for that option. So instead, they might allow you to be an authorized user or a signer on the account. Different institutions use different verbiage. So it's important to understand what the institution thinks that you should be able to access or you can access, because it is not full unfettered access to information. So those two options are only available to a person that wants to help in the family, whether it's a sibling, a child. Only options available is when it's actually a name, an account titled in the name of your parents or parents. It is not possible for these two options if the account is in the name of a trust or trusts, usually revocable at that point, because a lot of parents have those as part of their estate plan.
All right. See, you're already telling you, every time I talk to you, I learn something new. Can you give me an example of a typical family and their situation?
Sure. So a lot of children are actually pretty surprised when they go to talk to the financial institution, because they are coming in usually unaware and, as you know, potentially in crisis because of a medical event with a parent. So typically we see this when there is both parents alive. There's a joint checking account, money market usually. And in this case, we'll say parents are over the age of 80 and starting to experience some issues with their health, whether it's physical or mental. And usually there is one financial spouse or parent, and the other parent really doesn't have a handle on the actual whole picture of the finances. They know some of it usually, but the financial spouse or financial parent is there usually only one in a couple. So in this scenario we'll be talking about, it's important to know that this is an example of a family that is fully transparent about finances, and that's actually kind of rare. So this is the easier scenario when the parents are ready to accept help, they're fully transparent with their kids. So I had mentioned that there were trusts in an estate plan, but what other documents in a plan, estate plan can exist and be something that a kid should know about or a child should know about when they go to help their parents, because their parents usually have a full estate plan in place. And in fact, everybody listening to this podcast should also have their own estate plan in place. And you may want to think about this as well for the children of the listeners, even if they're college age students, they also would need some of this information and some of these documents to help. So no matter who you are, the estate plan should include decision-making documents about healthcare and finances. And then everybody should have what's called a will or will and testament as part of their estate plan. In our case, Annalee, the clients that we help out, there's usually one or more trusts also involved, but not everybody has that as part of their plan. So the healthcare surrogate or healthcare power of attorney, very important document, but not as relevant to our conversation today. In that example of the different documents, what we really want to focus on is the decision-making document or the power of attorney. That is the important part to help out and the key to helping out your parents. So in that document, that you name an agent who is going to be able to make financial decisions for you if you cannot. In some states, and we're in Florida, so I'll speak to Florida law. In this state, as soon as you sign that document, it works. Mm-hmm. So Annalee, if you had named me as your your financial power of attorney, and you sign that document, I can officially walk around and open accounts and apply for a mortgage and get a credit card. So it's a very, very powerful document. But in other states, like I'm from Iowa, in other states, there are actually springing powers, or they're not available to use until that person who made them are actually incapacitated and unable to make their own decisions. Along with that agent you're naming, you also would name a backup. So if you're thinking about, I might need to get this done for myself, the most important thing you can think about is who is actually going to be the person who could make these decisions for you and their backup. And oh, by the way, talk to them and make sure they actually want to serve in this position.
Yeah. I think we can't breeze over that, because I can tell you probably 90% of the clients that come to me their kids had no idea that they were named the healthcare power of attorney or the financial power of attorney until they started working with me. And they're like, yeah, we did that a decade ago. And I'm like, so just let's not breeze over that. So those that are listening or watching, whatever, just know that you need to find out, if your parents haven't talked to you, you need to find out, am I your power of attorney? And they need to make sure that you have the tools you need to be successful. Like if you're the healthcare power of attorney, you need to have these conversations about end of life and what medical treatments and all that kind of stuff. And you'll talk about, like, if you're going to be the financial power of attorney, or if you've been named the financial power of attorney, you need to have access to like all the information you need to be able to do your job, like accounts and passwords and so forth.
Yeah, I thought you might want to chat about that a bit, because that is pretty a frequent occurrence in our world as well, on the financial institution side.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, families, just because you have that document in hand and you're going to act for mom or dad, it doesn't mean you hand it over to the banker and then they automatically say, oh, okay, son, daughter, whomever, we'll work with you right now, right? It does not work like that. So the financial institution, and by the way, every financial institution that you might be going to with this very powerful document has the right to take, I believe it's 3 days in Florida, to review the document and make sure it fits with whatever their requirements are. I am not an attorney, but there's rules around whether or not they accept it and what liability might be involved. But the key here is it's not automatic. So make sure you talk to each financial institution and try to get it to them as soon as possible, and even proactively. Some institutions will accept it ahead of time, just so they know if something happens, they know who they can talk to. Other financial institutions will call it something like a trusted contact, not the actual document, but who should they understand that they can talk to freely with if something were to happen. And we all know that things work a little slower now with COVID. So could take days or weeks, you never know.
Just jumping in on that part too, not the COVID part, because everything is delayed because of COVID. But like, just even before people do all this paperwork, you need to be thinking about, like, the person that you name as the power of attorney. Is this someone that you trust? Because the whole point of the power of attorney is, if you can't act on your own behalf, you're appointing someone that you trust to step in and make decisions as if you were making them, right? So you need to make sure that you trust this person. And if you already have these documents in place, great. Review them to make sure that they haven't changed, like your relationship hasn't changed, or that person you named isn't demented or passed away or in some different type of capacity that is no longer a friend. But also make sure that if you are to be named or are named the power of attorney, do you really have the time and the energy, especially for a healthcare power of attorney, where you might have to be at hospitals or sign documents and stuff before anything can be done. So think about, if you have these documents already in place, good job, but have you communicated that to whomever it is that you've named as the power of attorney? And did you give them the tools and resources they need to be able to do their job? And make sure your documents are up to date. All right, so that's my little tidbit. So continue on, Miss Billie.
Well, so I would agree with you as far as having all the tools in place for that person who's named. As you can imagine, in my family, I'm named in several estate plans to help people out. And when you get that call to action, or that call for in crisis, I believe Anna usually put it that way, it's, trying to find these documents is not top of mind. So I actually have an important email folder in my email account where I have electronic copies of these documents. You should be able to give these places copies of the document. It does not have to be an original. So having those accessible at all times is really important. All right, so talking about our family that is fully transparent with finances, and the parents are ready for that help, or know they need the help, those same tools would be knowing where the accounts are, having online access even early. And as soon as you get that information, understand what bills are in your parents' life. What's already on autopilot, so you don't have to worry about it, both credits and debits. So Social Security, maybe VA benefits, all the utilities being auto-debited. Just understand what bills you don't have to worry about. And are they auto-debited or taken out of the checking account? Or are they set up on our credit cards so we can get the points? So just understand the flow of money. as soon as possible, so you know what random bills might show up in the mail. So, Annalie, what about the answer some people might get at a bank when that power of attorney is not approved, and that frustration continues to build with the family? That's the other side of the coin. So what happens then? There's a lot of different answers to that question, but the easiest way to kind of give your listeners some tools is that's really when it's time to get the estate planning attorney involved. Have them understand what's going on with mom or dad and be there as a resource for the child or the person helping. So I'd want to make sure if you are being named in the document, know who that resource is and know who mom and dad's attorney would be. So another tidbit from my side.
That's smart. And one of the things that, we do with CareRight is that grab and go binder. And I know you at the bank have a version of something like that too. But it's really important for families to know who's on the team, who's the financial planner, who's the long-term care insurance rep, who's the CPA, the attorney, who are the doctors, who are the medication, what are the medication lists? Like, it is important all of this stuff and you have it at your fingertips, because when you get that crisis call and you have to submit these forms to whether it's the bank or whether it's the hospital, you need them at your fingertips. The last thing you want to be doing is dinking around trying to figure out where are all of these documents and then find out, oh my gosh, mom never signed off on this. So now you actually have nothing in place. So, all right, let's see, where am I at? And if it's not approved, get your attorney involved, right?
Yep, that's a good step.
Okay.
And then, as we were talking before, there's also accounts that are always in the name or potentially in the name of the trust. So in that same vein with the attorney, what then? That is really a conversation with the attorney. If mom or dad is having an issue, usually they're the backup trustee because they make their own trust, they are their own trustee, but usually a spouse is a backup for the other. And if both of them are in frailer situations, then maybe we need to look at who's next in line. And that really is helpful to have the attorney involved because they're an independent third party with no horse in the race, if you will. So they're a great resource in that time of need.
All right. Let's see. Did I miss something? I want to make sure I got those. Can't add an authorized signer to the account in the name of the trust.
Exactly.
Know what happens to the funds.
So that's a perfect quick stop before we wrap up, because I know we're coming up upon the end of our time. Know what happens to the account that you're even trying to help your parents with, should they pass. Because a lot of people are surprised when they're paying bills from the account and all of a sudden mom and dad are no longer with us, and then that money is inaccessible. So just understand what happens to those funds that you're working with.
Okay. And a couple frequently asked questions. Does the power of attorney still work once the parent has passed?
This question comes up a lot.
Oh,
and the answer is, surprisingly to a lot of people, no. When the person passes away or expires, so does the power of attorney. So to the question of knowing what happens to those accounts, if it's a joint account with the parents, less of an issue, but yeah, the power of attorney does not work any longer. And then it's either the trustee or it's the personal representative, maybe named in a will. Or mom and dad could have surprised us and put a payable on death designation or beneficiary, if you will, on the account.
So it's important to just get all of this stuff in order. And number two, have your own stuff in order too. This isn't just for mom and dad. This isn't just for Ethel and Marvin. This is for all of us over the age of 18. Should I give another frequently asked question? Should I give a copy of the power of attorney to the people named? Oh, you have answer. It depends.
Yes, that's my favorite answer to questions, especially when we're giving lectures or educational talks on these things. And this question comes up because it's a very powerful document. So we know we love our family members. We know we trust, hopefully, whoever we're naming in these documents. But because it is so powerful, and I could walk around, Annalie, and have a credit card in your name or buy an expensive car in your name, a lot of attorneys will keep the original documents and give you what's called an escrow letter. And you take that letter, if Annalie, you're my mom and I'm your named agent, and I say, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Attorney, I need the power of attorney for mom. Annalie needs help. Well, then the attorney is going to check in with mom, dad, whoever you're named for, and make sure it is a true need. Make sure the named agent isn't taking advantage of the person unfairly. So some attorneys will keep that. Here in Florida, most of them will keep that document and give you that letter that is a check and balance. And I think it's a really good check and balance because there's usually some family dynamics that exist with most of our families.
Usually. So it's an understatement, but yeah. So just another takeaway is, make sure that you review your documents and make sure that you still have a trusting relationship, because you shouldn't name someone that you don't trust. So if you have, look at who you have in your, who are you going to name as a power of attorney? If you have 2 kids and they're both, addicts or have gambling problems, then you need to look somewhere else for someone who's going to be able to be your power of attorney and your decision maker. So it's make sure that whomever it is that you name as your power of attorney is someone that you trust.
I'm going to bring up one more FAQ to probably wrap the session. The other question that comes up usually is, I love all 3 of my children. How can I pick one to be first? There's going to be some hurt feelings. Or I love both of my children. Can't I just name them together? It's more about who's going to have the time to make the right decision, who's going to be competent and feel comfortable making the decision. And 2 signatures always take way more time than just one. So I would encourage you to have the conversation with your kids, see who's willing, ready, and able to act, and who isn't going to be upset that child number 1 is named over child number 2. It's all about education and conversation. You cannot communicate this enough. And as you said, review the plan and who you named, either every 3 to 5 years or upon a major life event. It's a good time to review it as well.
Yeah, I always coach families that don't let this be a one and done conversation, right? Like, because life happens. So, this is something that should be reviewed on a regular basis, and just say, hey, just, even when I travel somewhere for a speaking engagement or whatever, I just make sure that my power of attorney, which is AKA my sister and my brother, because I don't have kids, so it's my siblings. I'm like, hey, just so you guys remember, I don't want anything hooked. I don't want to be hooked up to anything in case the plane goes down and I'm like laying over there, like, just let me go, So, and I always make sure, like, because when I'm updating my grab and go binder with a different bank account or different insurance policy, I always update my beneficiary forms, and I send them out to this. We have a family document, like Google Docs or like Dropbox, so that it's at their fingertips, because they don't live down here either. So in the world that we live in that's remote and people don't live near each other, it's really helpful to have those electronic documents, so that if you do need to submit them to the bank or to the hospital or a physician clinic, you do have those. So takeaways are, make sure that your power of attorney is someone that you trust and that you look at these documents and address these issues on a regular basis, and get things set up with a bank proactively so that if that stroke happens and you're like, oh my gosh, dad just had a major stroke and he can't tell me what accounts and passwords and what bills are due, you want to have all this set up in a system ahead of time, preferably. So any closing remarks or any closing comments that you can think of, Billie?
I would reiterate one more tip or takeaway is meet your parents' team. Take the extra 10 minutes, hour when you're visiting to put a face with a name, so you're not meeting these people in crisis. Even if it's just once every couple of years. And lastly, you mentioned beneficiary designation forms. There's a lot of mergers and acquisitions that are happening in the financial world. So I would, on an annual basis, request copies of what they have on file, just to make sure they still have it on file.
That's a really good point. Because the last thing you want to find out at the worst possible time is that no one can find the beneficiary forms, or it's outdated, or the company lost it or whatever. So
yes.
Yeah.
It happens.
absolutely does happen. So proactive, proactive, proactive. That's what we try to get everybody to be. So because you'll have much better outcomes if you plan all of this ahead of time, instead of waiting until the major stroke happened or dad passed away or mom went in for a simple hip surgery and had a stroke on the table. So the more that we can plan ahead, the better the outcomes for everybody. So thank you, Billie, for your time. And what's a good way for people to learn more about you or how to contact you? Just go through Finemark Bank?
Yes, and thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. It's very good information you're trying to get out there, so I'm happy to help out with that. So yes, I am with Finemark National Bank and Trust. If you would like to learn more about our firm, you can visit our website at www.finemarkbank.com. So it's F as in Frank, INEMARK bank.com. My email address, if you have any kind of questions that popped up with this conversation, I'm happy to field them. It's my first name initial, so B as in boy, last name Porter, P as in Paul, ORTER at finemarkbank.com.
Perfect. And we'll also have all of that in the, all of your contact information in the newsletter as we put it together. So thank you so much, Billie. I appreciate you jumping on the call today and sharing your wisdom, your wealth of wisdom, and being a resource for all the clients and families that you work with and us professionals too. So
happy to be part of it. Thanks for having me again.
You bet. Thanks, Billie.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning into the Care Right podcast. We hope today's discussion has provided you with valuable insights. If so, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our podcast with others who might find it helpful. Remember, Care Right is more than just a podcast. It's a community dedicated to supporting family caregivers with comprehensive care planning, crisis management, and resources for every stage of aging. Stay connected with us for future episodes as we continue to explore essential topics in aging planning, elder care, and financial planning. Until next time, take care, plan wisely, and remember, you're not alone in your caregiving journey.